With you guys another technique video, and today we talk about the two most common mistakes I see with athletes that coming from a non-swimming background. So the number one is the crossing. You see people swimming, they cross it here, sometimes they crack and pull, sometimes they just kind of pull sideways, which make the hips move side to side. Another thing too, and they see the overextension. So when an athlete kind of overextend, they end up tilting the wrist, and so the hands goes up, the elbow go down, so they push the water down instead of pushing it out backwards. So those are the two mistakes that I see the most. So how can we correct that? So the crossing, it probably happens because you early in your swimming training learned that you need to do a high elbow to be able to swim well, which is not true, but it's a myth that keep going on and helps people get those mistakes even worse. So the reason why you probably crossing is if you try to go to high elbow, but because you lack of shoulder mobility, your hands has to go in to allow you, to lift your elbow up. But your hands going in, that's kind of exactly where you're going to be entering the water. See here. To be able to do like swimmers do, instead of going here, you have to be able to keep that high elbow, and your hands are going to be able to here, which very few people can do. I can't even do this with my mobility, and I've been swimming for a long time. So how can you fix that problem? That's very easy. So instead of focusing on bringing the elbow high, just focusing on bringing the arms around as straight as possible. So you see that bring the arms straight, my hands and my fingers are pointing to the front. So that's as straight as it can be. You can just enter in the water, right? So you can bend just a little bit if you want to, but make sure your arms enter wide and you watch your hands and be able to point to the water front. So that's kind of one of the easy way to correct. You can also practice with the stretch cords and exercise to make sure you get the proper movement. You create that muscle memory that's going to help you to swim. But number one, just don't think about this over rotation, because that's another thing that happens is people try to bring their elbow high. They don't have enough mobility, so they end up over rotating, so they keep the head out of the water for a long time and causing them to kind of chop in and crossing. So pay attention to this. Just bring your arms straight around and you see how easy it is for you to keep your hands where they should be. Okay, the second one, that's another problem, is people try to do the overextension on the arm. Actually, it's important to extend, but not straight over here. So you need to make sure when you go to extend that your hands are below your eye level. So you should be able to see the top of your hand here when you're swimming. So you want to be going in and see how easy it is for me to initiate the perfect catch. If your hands are over here, it's really hard for you to get your elbow high because your elbow is already below your wrist. So you're going to be pulling the water backwards, the water down instead of putting the water backwards. So if you go a little deeper, it's going to be much easier already for you to get to the proper elbow. Okay, so practice those two, and I'll see you next time. Coach Sergio Borges here.